The year 2020 dawned with uncertainty, as the United States battled a global pandemic and an economy in freefall. The question on everyone's mind was, what's next? The 2020 presidential election was one of the most contentious and consequential in American history. The question on everyone's mind was, would the nation choose to stay the course under President Donald Trump, or was it time for change? Donald Trump, the 45th president, had become a lightning rod for controversy. His brash and often polarizing style had earned him both fervent support and intense opposition. Joe Biden, the former vice president, emerged as Trump's opponent, promising to bring stability and unity to a divided nation. The COVID-19 pandemic had gripped the nation, with millions of Americans sick and thousands dying. The healthcare system was strained to the breaking point, and the country was in a state of emergency. As the election drew nearer, racial tensions exploded in the wake of the killing of George Floyd by a police officer in Minneapolis. Protests erupted across the country, demanding justice for Black lives and an end to systemic racism. The 2020 election campaign was unlike any other in history, with traditional campaigning methods largely off the table due to the pandemic. Both Trump and Biden turned to virtual town halls, social media, and television ads to communicate with voters. Despite the pandemic, early voting surged, as millions of Americans chose to vote by mail or cast their ballots early to avoid long lines on Election Day. November 3, 2020 arrived and the nation held its breath. It wasn't just the presidential race at stake. Control of Congress was up for grabs, and each state was a battleground. As the votes were counted, the race was incredibly tight. Early results suggested a strong showing for Trump in key battleground states, but as more mail-in ballots were counted, Biden began to gain ground. The tension in the air was palpable as people watched the live results on television and online, anxiously awaiting news of who would claim victory. But the night ended with no clear winner, as key states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin were still too close to call. The nation went to sleep unsure of who would come out on top, knowing that the results might not be known for days or even weeks. As days passed, the tension only grew as both Trump and Biden's teams filed legal challenges over the handling of ballots, especially in states with a high number of mail-in votes. Trump falsely claimed that the election was being stolen from him, and his supporters rallied behind him, demanding that the results be overturned. On November 7, 4 days after the election, the Associated Press finally called Pennsylvania in Biden's favor, pushing him over the 270 electoral votes needed to win the presidency. Joe Biden had been elected the 46th president of the United States, and his team erupted in cheers and tears of joy. But the celebrations were tempered by the ongoing chaos surrounding the election results, as Trump's refusal to concede led to widespread unrest. Tensions boiled over into the streets, culminating in the storming of the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, by pro-Trump extremists in an attempt to overturn the election result. The aftermath of the 2020 U.S. presidential election left the nation deeply divided, with the country remaining fractured along partisan lines. But the election also proved that despite the challenges, democracy still held strong, and the country could come together to choose its leaders and shape its future. The 2020 election was a reminder of the power of the vote, and of the importance of standing up for what you believe in, even when the road ahead seems uncertain. As the nation looked to the future, it was clear that the work of healing and rebuilding was just beginning, and that the country would have to come together to address the many challenges it faced. The Biden administration would have to navigate the complex web of challenges facing the nation, from the pandemic to racial tensions and economic inequality. But as the country moved forward, it was clear that the struggle for justice and equality would continue, and that the nation would have to confront its deep-seated divisions and challenges head-on. The 2020 U.S. presidential election was a turning point in American history, a moment when the nation was forced to confront its deepest divisions and challenges. The 2020 election was a reminder that even in the darkest times, there is always hope for a better future, and that the American people have the power to shape their own destiny. As the nation looked to the future, it was clear that the work of healing and rebuilding was just beginning, and that the country would have to come together to address the many challenges it faced. But as the country moved forward, it was clear that the struggle for justice and equality would continue, and that the nation would have to confront its deep-seated divisions and challenges head-on. The 2020 election was a reminder that even in the darkest times, there is always hope for a better future, and that the American people have the power to shape their own destiny. As the nation looked to the future, it was clear that the work of healing and rebuilding was just beginning, and that the country would have to come together to address the many challenges it faced. Please subscribe my channel to get notified for my latest uploaded videos.